Welcome to Suffering in Silence with Evangelist Tia on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We are here every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Love Bay, we are rising out of the ashes together. If you have tuned into the show before, you will very much recognize that I am not Evangelist Tia. Evangelist Tia is under the weather this week, so I am taking over hosting duties. My name is Jennifer Peterkin. I am a co-host on the show, one of the co-hosts on the show. So our topic tonight is She Is You, and hopefully we'll be joined by our guest momentarily, Shakina Rush. She is the founder and director of She Is You. But until then, we can go over some other resources. So for our listeners, if you have any questions or comments for our guest or the co-host, please email sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. And one thing that we do here is we like to give out resources for people around the world. So if you have resources that you would like for us to share on the show on a national or local or community level from your country or local organizations or your faith community, please email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. So, like I said, our guest this evening is Shakina Rush, and hopefully she will be with us shortly. But until then, I will share some of our resources with you. So, She Is You is an organization based in Philadelphia, and since it deals with women who have been victims of domestic violence, sexual abuse, and sexual assault, we'll kind of keep those resources. Keep that on the line of the resources. So the National Domestic Violence Hotline is one that we like to share a lot here. And so I'll go ahead and share that again. This is for the United States. It is www.thehotline.org. And that number is 1-800-799-7233. The UK National Domestic Abuse Helpline is www.nationaldahelpline.org.uk, or you can visit Women's Aid, which is www.womensaid.org.uk. One of the great things about domestic violence is that, or about domestic violence advocacy, is that there are so many resources all over the world. And, there's never enough because this problem is so large and so widespread, but we are just so proud to be able to share so many resources. The Polaris Project is the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And if you have any experience with domestic violence or sexual abuse or sexual assault, you will know that human trafficking is quite similar in a lot of the resources that it takes to heal. So the National Human Trafficking Hotline is 1-888-373-7888. Or you can text Be Free to 233-733. And their website is www.polaris, that's Polaris, project.org, polarisproject.org. So that is one that is very popular around the world. The Polaris Project does incredible work with victims of human trafficking. Another one is Safe Haven. That is www.interfaithpartners.org. And that is also a great resource for anybody that is looking for resources around faith. So that is several resources for all of you. And Shakina is able to join us now. So Shakina, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, Jennifer. Thank you so much for having me. Good evening.
So I'm really excited to have you on tonight, talk about She Is You. I was fortunate enough to meet you a few weeks ago. We did a workshop together for information about domestic violence and sexual abuse.
Hmm.
So I would love for you to just start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your organization.
Absolutely. So again, my name is Shakina Rush, and I am the founder and executive director of She Is You, Inc., which is a nonprofit organization that provides resources and services to families and individuals, no matter the sex, age, that are impacted by religion, no matter the differences, but we provide services to those who are impacted by that were impacted or are impacted by domestic violence, sex abuse, and sexual assault.
Mm.
So we were the organization was founded in 2020 during the brink of the pandemic, and since then, we have hosted like numerous of charity events, serviced at least I'm gonna say 100 individuals and maybe about four families. Yes, we've hosted Christmas toy giveaways. We just launched our scholarship, the Great Give Back, which is a scholarship and a shopping spree. We offer it to either a graduating high school senior or in incoming college freshmen, either or, that may have been impacted by directly or indirectly by domestic violence, sex abuse, or sexual assault.
Wow.
So,
I love that. I love how involved in the community you are. Um,
thank you.
that's not always so prevalent in organizations. So you
Mhm.
seem really tapped into your community, and that's fantastic. But I imagine that that comes from your own experiences and where you've found services lacking yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. As I had, discussed with you when we met, that I am an overcomer. I'm not a victim. I'm no longer a victim, but I'm an overcomer of unfortunately, all three circumstances. And my first encounterance was when I was just, a small Tyler infant, by the hands of my father, who sexually abused me. And then, later on in life, of course, well, I'm not going to say of course, but what some people may not know, that sometimes I'm not going to say sometimes, but sexual abuse, it can cause so many other, um, it has a domino effect, where it causes, psychological damage, emotional self-esteem damage. It just affects the individual in so many different ways. And for me, it affected my development as a young adult. I mean, in my adolescence years, as a young adult, as a mother, and it kind of led me down a path of destructive behavior and just being attracted to violent and abusive relationships and situations. So yes, when I was experiencing um, the side effects of the trauma, no one could really identify what the issue was because, there was so much silence and there was so much, don't talk about it. And, what goes on in the home stays in the home. So I could not get the help that I needed. Um, and there wasn't a lot of awareness or advocacy being done. So even if I did want help, or if I felt like um, you know I could uh, search for the help on my own, even like as a teenager or what have you, there wasn't a lot of access, or there wasn't a lot of information like to where as though I could turn to and get the help. So yes, that is why I am so active, in the community. Like I'm in the living rooms, I'm in the kitchens, I'm at the courtrooms. So yeah, I like to.
Yeah, it's such an important role to play because, we read out resources before at the beginning of each show, and there's so much out there, and I'm so thankful for what is out there, but
Hmm.
it's not comprehensive, and there are so many gaps. And I think what
Yeah.
people that have not been in it don't understand is the amount of support that people
Hmm.
need after the fact, because it leaves you so vulnerable
Hmm.
to, like you said, this domino effect of
Hmm.
other things can happen because of the vulnerability that you have
Hmm.
through this experience. Um, and so, when we talk about prevention versus restoration,
Hmm.
restoration is just from just from an economic standpoint, so much more expensive. It takes so many more resources to restore after the
Hmm.
damage has already been done than to prevent. And unfortunately, we have not figured out how to eradicate this to the point that we can prevent it. So we need those resources to be available, and we need them to be comprehensive.
I think the number one issue to why it has not been eradicated is because it's such a sensitive conversation, and it makes people feel uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and it can be triggering, but so as so many other things that's going on in the world. You have the war in Pakistan, and children's heads getting blown off, all of that stuff that you see on the news and social media. They push it and they promote it and they put it right in our faces. This is what's going on, and I think that it's not in our faces enough
Mm.
um, to really open the eyes to the public and people, to kind of like counteract or to put certain things in place and take proper precautions to prevent it. Like it's not enough awareness. It's not enough awareness. It's only awareness when it happens to someone like close to you or what have you, and then the awareness is only for a brief second, and then it just get swept right back under the rug or whatever.
Yeah.
Especially if it's done to a young child, because like you want to try to protect the privacy and the innocence of a young child and all of that stuff, but it has to be it has to be taught in the classrooms. It has to, it has to, discussions need to be had amongst in our classrooms, through our educators and things like that, and our daycare providers. Um, it really needs to be an open conversation and not a private conversation.
I agree. Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head with that. It is one of the biggest reasons that we have not been able to really move the needle with domestic
Hmm.
violence and sexual assault and sexual abuse,
Hmm.
because, like you said, with so many other things, there have been movements that have really
Hmm.
forced things into the cultural eye and forced change. And domestic violence is not one of those things. As much as we would like to believe it is,
Hmm.
it's not. And being in advocacy, you see the numbers, you see what's happening, that, okay, this
Hmm.
really isn't changing. And
Hmm.
you're right, it's not until after the fact that people get curious, and then the damage is already done. And it's not that you can't find healing, but you will never not know what it's like to experience that.
Hmm.
That will forever be a part of your um your path in terms of what you have gone through, and not that you have to live in that space, but it will always be something that you're aware of, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Yep.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So speaking then of restoration and healing,
Mhm.
what was a little bit of your healing journey? And then I assume that starting this organization was a part of that as well. So how did that all tie together?
So just being able to open my mouth and really tell the truth, no matter how ugly it was, you know what I mean? And just like accepting the truth for myself. And I'm not victim blaming or anything like that, but a lot of issues surrounding domestic violence has have a lot to do with your self esteem, um, and your level of self awareness. You know what I mean? And what you believe about yourself. Because if you don't have the self esteem, the confidence, and self belief, believing in yourself, anything or anyone can come to you and just tell you anything. You know, they can tell you they are the big green monster, and there's no way that you can get past them, because they're the big green monster and they have all the power or what have you. And that's kind of like the mindset
Mm,
of some people when they are in an abusive relationship, that they really truly believe that there is no way out, um, that there is nothing that they can do. They feel so powerless. And that is the biggest lie
mm,
that, a lot of victims believe until they finally, hear the truth and realize the truth. Like, hey, like I do have the power. Um, and I get that sometimes, when people feel, I guess, empowered and they get and they feel liberated, that is the most dangerous time. You know what I mean? That's when their life is the most dangerous, but it's always been dangerous.
yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So when you spent a lot of your life in abusive situations, and
Hmm.
um
Hmm.
like you said, it was a domino effect.
Hmm.
One thing left you vulnerable to another thing, to another
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
So when did you decide I mean, because you are very clear you are not a victim. When
Hmm.
did that mentality shift come for you?
um that I am not, when I realized that I have the power and control and authority to decide what happens to me. Like I decide what I allow. Like, when I realized that I have, I just have the power to make the decision. Like I don't have to accept, and I don't owe anyone anything.
Mm,
Like, sometimes when you are a victim, you feel like you owe someone something, like, you know, um, I have to be there, or I have to, I don't know, like, accept this. This is just a part of what I have to go through. Like, this is just something that, like, I don't owe anyone anything except myself.
mm,
And that's when, I decided that I was not a victim
yeah.
anymore. Like, because I had the autonomy. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
I have legs that I can walk. I have a voice that I can talk. I can move. Like, what? Like, wait a minute. Like, I'm not, you know, it's sad to say some people do get locked up, chained up, and handcuffed and all of that stuff. But here it is. I have my own vehicle. You know what I mean? I have the ability to work for myself. Like what? Like why am I allowing,
Mm.
these things to happen to me when worth so much more? When I really discovered my self worth. You know what I mean?
I mean, and I think you're right too. The self-esteem and your self value is
Mhm,
such an important piece of overcoming victimhood and
mhm,
really finding who you are and
mhm,
living out your purpose.
mhm.
um so not everybody obviously that goes through this then turns around and creates an organization. So
Right.
how what was your jump to, like, I've been through this, now I'm going to put it into action? What kind of motivated you to get into that?
Well, first off, I am a believer. And when I say I'm a believer, I have a very strong and intimate relationship with God. I am a minister, and it took for me to really get to a place, an intimate place with God, and it took for me to allow God to become that intimate partner, that person that I thought I could not live without. It took for me to allow God to love me, so I could love me enough for me to love myself. You know what I mean? So that's what it was. I never see myself, starting an organization or having an organization or speaking or even speaking publicly about all of the things that I've experienced and went through. But the more that I've talked and shared my experience, the more free I became. You know what I mean? It just the more the lighter the weight that was like on my weighing on my chest or weighing on my shoulders, the lighter I became. The like just freedom became me. It's just the feeling of being free. That's what kind of motivated me to start the organization and just wanting other people and just wanting to show other people and just wanting to let other people know, like, hey, like, listen, whatever you're going through, like, it's only a moment and you don't have to stay there.
Mm,
You don't have to stay there, and um you can forgive yourself and you can forgive those that have hurt you as well. I mean, it does not mean that it was okay, but you can forgive, and when you forgive, you're able to just to be that person that you were originally created to be. You know what I mean? I don't want to cheat myself any more than what I've already have. Like, I don't want to miss out and I don't want to lose any more time than I've already lost. So I'm going to like take advantage and live it out to the best that I can and just and show and help others. Like, come on, I want to just bring as many people along with me as I possibly can. Like, let's go. Like, let's move. You know, you don't need someone to love you. And that's the thing. Like, it's like we need this. That's why a lot of people stay, because they feel like they're being loved, and pain or abuse is never associated with love. And that's a lie that we were taught, even as kids. Like, oh, I'm only disciplining you because I love you and I don't, and I want you to understand and I want you to learn. No, love is love. Love never hurts. Love has nothing to do with pain.
mhm. Yeah. I I think you're right that we have kind of mixed that narrative in. We've tried to
Mhm.
romanticize pain, and it's not romantic at all. It's not. jealousy isn't romantic, and the drama of a bad relationship, it's not romantic, it's not exciting, it's toxic, and we need to be moving away from those relationships.
Mhm.
um and I think another thing that we have to remember is that I do believe that we're built for community. I believe God created us for community, but that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that you have to be married to be in community. There are so many different ways to be in community with people.
Mhm.
Um, and there's not really a wrong way to find your people, like whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, whether it's people you work with or people you do volunteer work with, whether it's a mixture of all of these things.
Mhm.
um, it's important to find your community. So
Mhm.
the message isn't go be alone and do it on your own, but it
Mhm.
is be understand your value enough to know that you loved or be in community with somebody.
Mhm. And just learn all that you can learn about yourself first. Like, just
Mm,
I never really learned so much about myself until I spent enough time with myself. Like, I had to really spend time with myself. I had to really understand, like, hey, like, the things that I don't like, that I don't want, I don't have to accept
yeah,
it. I don't have to accept it. No matter how it might make someone else feel. If I don't like it, if I don't want it, if it makes me uncomfortable, I don't have to accept it.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Our boundaries are important, and that's
Yeah.
something we say a lot here. We talk
Yeah.
about boundaries a lot. They're healthy, and a lot of times we don't grow up in households with boundaries, and it's because our parents didn't grow up in households with boundaries, and their
Yep.
parents, and so it's we come by it very honestly sometimes.
Mhm.
um but when you know better, you do better, right? And so
Yep.
you have to be willing to step in and break that cycle and say, all right, I'm
Mhm.
not going to just keep going just because that's how it's always been done. um,
Mhm.
because that's not a mark of a good movement or a right movement.
It has nothing to do with strength. It has nothing to do with loyalty.
Mm,
You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with um dedication. It has nothing to do with, you know, just you know, what is it? What I'm trying to say? It has nothing to do with strength, loyalty, dedication. It has nothing to do with um, being a commitment.
mm,
Like, it has nothing to do with it. Suffering. Has nothing to do. You don't have to suffer um, because you're committed or you're dedicated, or you feel like you're dedicated, or you feel like you're obligated. Like, you don't. That you should not have to suffer because of those things, because of your loyalty. If you get what I'm saying, like, loyalty should not have to be connected to suffering.
absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? Like, some people just feel like, well, because I'm a loyal person, you know, this is why I am dealing with this,
Yeah.
because I'm dedicated, because I made a commitment. you
Yeah.
know, um, this is why I'm going to just push through this.
But, I think
That
too that there's not enough people like you standing up and saying, "No, that's wrong. You don't have to do that. You shouldn't do that." I think there is too much of a narrative around, yeah, that is what loyalty looks like. That is what commitment looks like. And no, I mean, it's a two-way street. And, relationship has to be give and take, and it can't be all one-sided, and it can't be the one partner just leeching the life out of the other partner. And that is in any relationship, not just romantic relationship. So absolutely being aware of your value, your identity, who you
And
are.
another thing, I'm sorry not to cut you off.
No.
Um, Putting someone else needs and wants before your own. Like you have to understand that if you are not happy first, it's impossible, for someone else, for you to really, what I mean, make someone else happy because you're not happy.
Mm,
So I think it's important that you have to make sure that you are happy. Stop sacrificing your happiness and your wants and your needs,
yeah.
to satisfy someone else. Like um that's like abuse. Like you're being abusive to yourself, you know what I mean? By not understanding and knowing that you have to put yourself first.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I'm not saying be selfish, but put yourself first in a healthy way to where as though you can be the best person for everyone else.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
know, because you teach and show people how to treat you,
Mm,
um, by how you treat yourself.
yep. Yep. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
It's a big one. That's a big
Mhm.
one, and we, I don't know that we necessarily get into it that deeply, you know,
Mhm.
talk about self-care on, like, a pretty superficial level, but really, that what you're saying is very true. We do model how we expect to be treated by how we what we allow, from
Mhm.
others, and how we treat ourselves, how we prioritize ourselves, so
And that goes to, the self-esteem and just being a and I don't, I'm not gonna be biased and just say just being a woman. But if you feel like you are the nurturer, or whatever, sometimes we feel like that is a part of our role, by just like taking a back seat, taking a back burner, whatever. No, why do you have to take the back seat?
yeah.
It's enough. I think it's enough space and enough room for us all to arrive where we need to arrive, so we all can be there, healthy and supportive of each other.
Mm, I agree, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, your name, your
Hmm.
organization name, She Is You,
Hmm.
how did you come up with that?
Okay, so I'm not going to take any credit because I give all glory and honor to God, um, who I love and um, strongly believe in. Um, One day, I was looking at a picture of myself, and it was a picture when I was just like, when I was just like so broken. I was so
Mhm.
broken, and I was just so lost, and I had no idea the mindset that I was in. And then when I and then when I was looking at the picture, it kind of this was after I removed myself from the relationship, and I spent some time alone and all of that stuff, and I began my healing process. I was looking at this picture, and I really couldn't recognize myself in the picture.
Mm,
I really could not. And I was just looking, and I was just like, this person in this picture, this is not me. You know what I mean? Like, who is this person?
mm,
Because I don't know who this person is. And I heard the voice of God, and I know some people say, oh, how do you hear God, whatever, but that's my belief. And God said to me, she is you.
Mm.
And I was just looking and I was like, what? Like, that's me? I mean, I had like a blood, I don't like a broken blood vessel in my eye.
Oh.
And I had like dark rings under my eyes. And I was just like just so broken. And I was just like, I can't believe this is me. I really could not identify with that person anymore. And yeah, so that's how I came up with the name.
I love that. That is a beautiful story, and I
Thank
identify that with that in my own way of
you.
I've definitely looked back at pictures of
Mhm.
myself when I was in
Mhm.
the middle of things and my own story and just been like, "Whew, that girl is haunted." Like, I can see it. And yeah,
Mhm.
it's important, I think, to acknowledge all
Mhm.
versions of ourselves, right?
Mhm.
Even as
Yep.
we go through metamorphosis and we
Mhm.
hopefully continue changing and growing throughout our whole lives. But
Mhm.
I agree, it's important not to leave that person behind. I think that it is, that's kind of the center of your empathy, right? It's right
Mhm.
there because you
Mhm.
understand who that girl was
Yes.
and who
And
that girl became.
yes, and there are so many, she is used out there,
Mm,
and they're not even aware that that is them and that they're in that place. Because you don't know, you can't really see yourself until you really step out of yourself. Like
yeah.
you know what I mean? Until you really kind of just get to a point where you don't want to go, you don't want it anymore. And that's why, some people might say like when a person is in an abusive relationship, it's sort of almost like a relationship like with like a drug addict, like how
Mm,
addict is in a relationship with the particular drug that they like they don't know, they can't see like the effects that the drug is having or taking on them. They don't see the toll that it's taking, but they
mm,
just keep going back for more and more and more because they like how it makes them feel, like I guess whatever void that they have it's filling.
yeah.
So the more they go back, the more it just kind of just takes away from them and just beats them down into the point where as though they're just like broken down to nothing. And then that's when they're like, okay, this is it. I can't go any further. And that's when a chair was thrown on me. And this was after, all of the other fights and all of that type of stuff, the strangulations and, um, you know, the tackles and the punches and the slaps and all of that stuff. This was the chair was after all of that, but that was my breaking point because it's like, this is it. I was able to feel the pain enough
Mm,
um, when the chair hit me for me to say, okay, I don't want this anymore.
mm,
I don't ever want to feel this anymore. Like, this does not, I don't like it anymore. Because I think at one point I liked it. If it felt like love to me, it felt like it was attention. It was,
mm.
uh, you know, um, desire and all of that stuff. And
Passion.
yeah, it was passionate. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, hold up. No, this is not this is not what I'm used to feeling. And I think that was because I started loving myself.
Mm,
And I started becoming familiar with love was. I started becoming familiar to the feeling of love and true love. And that was because of my relationship with God and the time that I was spending with God. I was able to identify what true love was. And once that chair hit me, I was like, oh no, this is not it.
Wow.
This what love got to do with it, baby? Ain't it? And yeah, and I was able to feel the real hurt and the real pain. Like, wait a minute, this person does not love me. This person don't respect me, like me, nothing. If this person is capable of doing it, they don't care nothing about me.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
if I don't get away, that this is like like basically they could have killed me.
Yeah.
You know, at that moment, like they could have killed me just that fast. And if I didn't walk away, then I would have been dead. You know what I mean? Because it would have turned into something bigger. I mean, that was big
Yeah.
enough.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. I mean, something that we often say is that abuse escalates. We know
Mhm,
that abuse escalates in all of its forms. And
mhm,
so, when we talk about, like, I think there's some feelings from people of, well, what is enough of abuse for me to leave? Like, when do I get to say I've had enough? I've endured enough. I've been through enough before I leave. And I think what we try to communicate is that none of it the first time you can leave, right? Like, there is no paying your dues where abusive relationships are concerned, because it's not going to get better. And anybody that tells you it might is really has no experience in this at all, but is
mhm,
also playing to your fears and insecurities about being a bad partner, and
mhm,
being a bad friend, or being a bad employee, or being a bad child.
mhm,
And ultimately, what we know for certain about abuse is that it escalates every single
mhm,
time. And
mhm.
so, you know, you had your breaking point, and it's amazing that you had it, because there are people that don't have it. But
And
as soon as you clock, that is abuse, I'm being abused, that's your sign. Get out. Don't wait for the next instance. Don't wait for something worse to happen, because it will come.
so the thing is, right, it's like I said, it's like almost when a drug addict is chasing a high,
Mhm.
and they're looking for that same exact high that they got when they the first time that they ever got high. And it's like it's never enough. And you have some people where they wind up overdosing, they wind up taking too much, and they die or whatever. And you got some people that's just like, you know what, I'm never going to get that. I'm never going to get that high ever again. So this is where it ends for me.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And that's like, and I dislike when people try to put on a jacket as if they were abused, and they give the textbook version, like, oh, it takes almost 7 times for a woman to leave an abusive relationship. And that is so far from the truth. Like, I can't even, you know what I mean? I can't even, like, sum it up. But it takes however many times it takes for that person to understand that their life
mm,
is at stake, and that their life is valuable. And it may take a lot for a person, especially someone who's already experienced trauma, someone who's already witnessed abuse, someone who's already vulnerable, someone who's already dealing with, like, self-esteem insecurities and all of that stuff, and someone that's homeless. Like, who knows how many times it may take.
yeah.
I don't even remember how many I was with this person for almost a decade.
Mm,
So yeah. So I don't and because we were so um we were so immature. We were so just lost in our own selves, and trying to figure out life for ourselves and trying to figure out who we were as individuals and stuff like that. Like, I can't even count. It's I can't even put a number on how many times, how many fights we had, and
Mm.
how many times the abuse occurred or whatever. So yeah, it takes however many times it's going to take for that person to understand that their life their life is important and their life is in jeopardy anytime someone hit you violently or even playfully,
Mm.
that they may pretend, or anytime someone may say something to you violently, because if a person can say it, then they can do it.
Mhm.
Once they speak it, you better believe them. And naiveness comes into play.
Mm.
Just being naive, not believing that people are capable.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. People are capable. You cannot put things past people, like especially someone who is violent and jealous and insecure and controlling and dominating,
Mm.
and aggressive, or suicidal, or if they display um, if they display symptoms of depression. um, you cannot be naive to those things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You're right. And I agree. It takes people as long as it takes them to get out of it. And there should be no judgment placed on that because it's a very difficult thing to do. But I know that there are so many people that feel like they need permission, right? They need the validation to leave. And I just want to say you don't. If you think that that you are in an abusive relationship, if you're already there mentally, you are probably much further into it than you think you are. Because our minds don't normally go directly there, right?
Hmm.
so,
Hmm. Hmm.
so yeah, I mean, I think it's an important thing to say just because I've had my own experience of people just feeling like I don't know if I can, it's not that bad. We try to rationalize it so much. And there's so that, I mean, that could be a whole other hour conversation and you'll have to come back and we can do that. But I do want to focus a little bit on your organization a little bit more before, we come to the end of our hour here.
Hmm.
What, um, I want to ask, you started during the pandemic. Was that intentional? Or were you like knew you wanted to start this and then the pandemic happened?
No, it wasn't. It was just like, so my place of, well, yeah, I think it was before. No, it was after. Um, so my place of worship, at the time, they had like a ministry, right? That that ministered to, survivors and victims of domestic violence, sex abuse, and sexual assault. And being as though that I, experienced those instances, I became a member of that ministry, because that was just something that I could relate to, and yeah, something that I actually just kind of came out of, in a sense. I haven't really dated. Well, I've dated after that relationship, but I haven't really like um, committed to anything serious since then. And that was like almost 12 years ago.
Mm.
So I just kind of just been dating a little bit, not too much. But yeah, I was a part of a ministry at my place of worship. And, that God was kind of dealing with me about, the ministry part, and mentoring other girls and other, women, or even men that experience sex abuse, that experience domestic violence. And God just gave it to me during that time. It was not intentional, but so happened a young lady, she kind of just lost her life. I think it was like the following year or maybe the end of. I started we did the launch in October of 2020. And I think the young lady was murdered in like December sometime or something like that. And it really motivated me to just to do it, because I'm like, wait a minute, like I, that her life may could have possibly been spared some way somehow, if there was more awareness, if there was more resources out there. She did put in a PFA, a protection from abuse, but she, I don't think she was really knowledgeable about the dangers of someone who was like abusive and narcissistic, because once they feel that rejection,
Mm,
and that's like he kind of, I guess he felt rejected by her once she asked for her space. And it turned him into a murderer. Well, not in, well, I'm not going to say it turned him into a murderer, but that's when they become that's when the abuser becomes more aggressive.
mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, so that's what kind of like motivated me to just push it even more. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how would people get in touch with you or your organization to utilize your services? You're in Philadelphia, right?
So we're based in Philadelphia, and we provide services to whoever come. But being as though we're a grassroots organization, um, we're only 4 years old. Well, we'll be four in October, and we have very limited funding. We like to provide services to Philadelphia and the surrounding counties when we have the budget to do so. But they can get in touch with She Is You via Instagram, Facebook, our website, www.sheisyou.org. Um, uh, we're on LinkedIn, She Is You Inc. on LinkedIn, Facebook, She Is You Inc. on Facebook. We also have like a holistic um, service where we offer prayer once a month at the end of the month, where we pray for individuals who are, dealing with or may have been impacted by, such circumstances. So, yeah, because sometimes, well, as a believer, I believe prayer does work and it's a weapon. So, sometimes people, they just say, I just
Mm, I think I lost your sound. Sorry, can't hear you. Um, Hopefully Shakina will be right back. Nope, still can't hear you. Sorry. But I do want to mention that She Is You is the letter U. So it's She Is the letter U. So when you are looking for them on Facebook or Instagram or their website, it is She Is You, letter U .org, right? It's .org. So, well, I don't know what happened, but sorry, Shakina. It was uh let's see. No, I can't hear you. I'm sorry. But I do want to say Shakina's doing incredible work, Philadelphia, serving the Philadelphia and surrounding area. I didn't realize that her organization was only 4 years old, and she's doing incredible things. I mean, to be doing transitional housing from a 4 year old organization is just incredible. It's such a gap in service. So, and you're doing a Kendra Scott fundraiser for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Is that what? Okay. And so they are doing a Kendra Scott fundraiser for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I'm assuming details will be on your website, socials, all of that fun stuff. It's going to take place in Ardmore. So if you want to find out more, if you're in the Philadelphia area and want to find out more about the fundraiser, please visit sheisyou.org to find out more about that. You can find all of their socials and stuff from visiting their website. So um, please sign in and purchase some signature pieces. Shakina and her team would love to see you, love to have your support. So definitely get in touch with her, especially if you're in the Philadelphia area and would love to help out. So thank you so much, Shakina. I'm sorry we had to end like this. I'm so sorry, but thank you so much. We'll definitely have to have you back on the show. You have a lot of knowledge and a lot of great things to talk about. You come from such a beautiful place. So I appreciate you and appreciate what you're doing. So thank you. Thank you. So you can catch up on previous episodes of Suffering in Silence on our YouTube channel Suffering in Silence DV. And you can also go to GoFundMe and look up our organization, Rise Out of the Ashes Inc. We are a rapid response organization. We have just started. We received our 501c3 at the end of last year. So we are very baby new organization, but we are wanting to kind of step into a lot of the same roles that Shakina is doing in terms of filling in gaps that maybe some bigger organizations can't handle just because of the way that they're structured. So please feel free to visit our GoFundMe, find out more about us, and donate if you feel led. So thank you for joining Suffering in Silence with Evangelist Tia on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We are here every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And Love Bay, we are rising out of the ashes together. Good evening.